Well, good morning. Let me extend my welcome this morning. My name is Adam Hildebrand. I get to be one of the pastors here at LVfirst, and it is my joy and privilege to welcome you to worship. Those of you who are joining us here in person, those of you who are joining us online, we are excited to be together. What a great morning of worship it has already been. This is a fantastic day, and appreciate our band leading us in such an incredible way this morning. I love those songs. They take me back to a few years ago. I remember those songs. I remember how old I was when those songs came out, which is good or bad, I don't know, but it just is. So, and appreciate Jeff for sharing with us this morning. If you don't know this about Jeff, Jeff's a little passionate, and he's passionate because he loves this church. He loves this church. That man goes above and beyond the call of what any other church administrator in any other church in the whole wide world would do. And so just so you know, you have an amazing staff here at this church, and they do incredible. Yeah, you can celebrate them. And so he shares out of that passion, and I appreciate that. And if we are talking a little bit about money, if that makes you uncomfortable, just understand that your money is not about us getting more of your money. If you had a bad church experience where you're like, all the church ever talks about is money, like we're not that church. We're talking about money because money funds ministry. And like we care about money because we care about ministry. We care about what's happening in our community. And so that's really what we're talking about. That's really what we're thinking about. And so today I want to just start off by sharing a little bit about myself. I don't know if any of you are like me, but I am not the person that should go to the grocery store. I shouldn't go to the grocery store for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know where anything is. It doesn't matter how many times I've been in that grocery store. If Michelle texts me and says, hey, on the way home, can you pick up da-da-da? I have to text her back and say, where is that? Like, I could have gotten it 50 times before. I have no idea. Like, I walk into a grocery store and all of a sudden I'm just like, where am I? What am I doing? Yeah, so she has to tell me exactly where it is. And this is the other thing about me is when I go to the grocery store, even if I'm just there to pick up one thing, I pick up more than one thing. I pick up a lot of things. Like, I will come home from the grocery store with all sorts of things that Michelle did not ask me to pick up. She may send me for one specific thing. Hey, can you pick up some cinnamon? And I'm coming home with all sorts of stuff. And here's the conversation that happens when I get home. I get home with all these bags, and she's like, I literally sent you for one thing. And I was like, I know, but I was worried that we didn't have enough butter. I was worried that we didn't have enough cheese. And she's like, we always have enough cheese. Like, no, but what if we run out of cheese and I can't make a tortilla with melted cheese on top? Like, what am I going to do then? Like, what's going to happen? And so I'll pick up all these things and I'll come home, and then like our fridge is kind of overflowing, and I just have a lot of stuff. I'm always worried about not having enough of certain things. This happens in lots of places in our lives. For me specifically, I'm not just an overshopper, I'm also an overpacker. So like if I'm going somewhere, the number of pairs of socks that I take is ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, but I can't stop, right? Because I think to myself, okay, I need a new pair of socks for every day. Aren't you glad about that? Better than some of our teenagers when they go on retreat. I need a new pair of socks every day. But then, like, what if it rains? Or what if I step in a puddle? Or what if I need a special pair of socks for a special circumstance? Like, we're going hiking and I need some specific hiking socks, but then that day I would also not only need the hiking socks, but I would also need a regular pair of socks. And then if I had the regular pair of socks, like, what if those socks, something happened to them, and then I needed another pair of socks? Welcome to my neuroses. Yeah, some of you have the same ones, and it may be about widely vast things. You may always worry that you don't have enough socks, that you haven't packed enough socks, that you're not prepared for whatever situation. For some of us, this is around our savings. Like we're worried we haven't saved enough. We don't have enough. We can't put enough away to make sure that if something goes wrong, we've got enough. For an emergency. Maybe for you it's time. Maybe it's time. I just don't have enough time, and I got to figure out how to take the time and utilize it in the most particular way. And I got to schedule everything just so I have enough time. Which makes me wonder about this question: when is enough enough? When is enough enough? When is it enough socks? When is it enough groceries? When is it enough time? When is it enough in savings? When is it enough for us? The reason that we do the things that we do is because all of us struggle with what's called a scarcity mindset. In some way, shape, or form in your life, you probably struggle with a scarcity mindset. You look at something and you think, I'm worried that there's not going to be enough, okay? Picture this scenario. Thanksgiving's coming up in about a month, and you're sitting at the Thanksgiving table, and you're watching your favorite food or dessert start at the other end of the table. And you are constantly in anxiety as it comes your way, wondering, is there going to be enough of whatever it is? We all wrestle with this scarcity mindset. It comes from our psyche. We're always worried about making sure that we're taken care of. Our brain tells us all sorts of things. It plays all sorts of tricks on us, telling us that we got to get ours, and then everybody else has got to deal with things. And if there's some left over, well, maybe I might share out of that. But what generosity does, what this campaign that we're talking about, this opportunity that we have to give in a very specific way, what it does is it short circuits that scarcity mentality for us. All of a sudden, it reminds us that in God's great world, there is more than enough. And we just need to remind ourselves sometimes that there is more than enough. Generosity short circuits this, and this generosity campaign that we're talking about building the church, really comes from that song that we sang a little bit ago, the call to worship, this idea that Jesus says he's going to build his church, and we get to be a part of it. And he's going to build his church on the confession that he is Lord, which means that other things are not Lord in our lives, that Jesus is Lord of our life. And that confession in and of itself should change the way that we live every other piece of our lives. But it's not just upon that confession. Jesus says the gates of Hades won't stand against it. The people who are outside of this confession need to be inside this confession. So we build this bridge that invites them to see hope and possibility. Talking about the first week, and then last week we talked about this idea of sowing seeds versus throwing seeds. That there's this intentionality that allows us to create a place where people can come and find rest and hope and possibility. And that's what we do here in this place. So we make a place where the birds of the air from all over, people who are wrestling with all sorts of things, can find a place of rest and hope and possibility. And today I want us to think about what we might do in ministry beyond the walls of this church, how we might engage in that. And the story that I want to tell today is a familiar story. You're going to kind of be familiar with it. You're going to know it, but I just want you to hear it again, and we're going to kind of work through this pretty quickly. In Matthew chapter 14, Jesus says this, and starting in verse 13, it says, "Now, when Jesus heard this, he withdrew from there in a boat to a deserted place by himself. When the crowds heard that he was there, they followed him on foot from all of the towns." Jesus is trying to get away for a few minutes. Jesus has had he's had enough extroverting time, and he wants a little introvert time. Some of you know what I'm talking about. He wants a little time just to kind of relax for a minute, but the crowds hear that he's there, and watch what it says about him. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he didn't get frustrated these people again. It says that he has compassion for them. This word compassion is one of my favorite Greek words, splagnitsomai, which literally means care from the bowels. He feels in his gut that he's got to do something. That's what compassion looks like, this sense that we have to do something. He had compassion for them, and he cured their sick. But when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now late. Send the crowds away so that they may go into the villages and buy food for themselves." Buy food for themselves. The disciples look around, and they're like, "Hey, Jesus, sun's going down, streetlights are coming on. Mom said I got to be home by the time the streetlights come on." And so can we send these people away so that we can go and do what we need to do because, we just don't have enough time left in the day. There's not enough time, Jesus. We got to send them all away. And they need to go take care of themselves. They need to go deal with their own problems. They need to go and buy their own food. They need to take care of themselves. Their problems can't become our problems. We just need them to go because we got problems of our own. We got stuff we got to do. We need to have a little powwow. Let's just send them away, Jesus. Just oftentimes how we live. It's oftentimes how we think. They can go deal with their own thing. Send them away. Let them get food for themselves. Jesus says the most ridiculous thing. He responds in the most ridiculous way. The disciples have made their case. This is a deserted place and it's late. We got to send them away. This is what makes the most sense, Jesus. But Jesus said to them, they need not go away. You give them something to eat. Sorry, Jesus. Maybe you didn't hear our argument before. Like, it's late. Where are they going to go? Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to feed these people? There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people here. And they're all going to be hungry, and they're all going to be wanting something. Like, where are we going to send them? Like, we can't do this. We got to send them away, Jesus. That's the smart thing to do. Let's tell them to go deal with their own problem. Deal with your own problems. Not my problem. Not my circus. We don't have to deal with that. You give them something to eat, Jesus says. Isn't this the call of the church? You give them something to eat. When people are hungry, you feed them. It seems pretty simple. I realize it's much more complex than that. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the ministry partners that we have in this community that are dealing with food insecurity in all sorts of ways, because I know that there are people who deal with hunger each and every day that are our neighbors, that are our friends, that may be in this room. I know that that's a reality in our community. And I'm so grateful for the Lawrenceville Co-op, for Village of Hope, for all sorts of people who deal with food insecurity day in and day out. I'm so grateful for you and the ways that you bring food to our Tuesday drop-off or put in the boxes out there, and all of that stuff goes out into our community, and it's incredible to see how we're able to meet needs, real physical needs, but there are other hungers that people have. Everybody who you come into contact with is hungry for something. Everyone's hungry. All of us are hungry. All of us have hunger in our life. Jesus recognizes that there is a great hunger in the world and invites us to be a part of helping to fulfill that great hunger. People are hungry for connection in our world. People feel lonely and isolated and disconnected and angry, and people are hungry for real, meaningful connection. People are hungry for guidance. Help me figure out this world around me. Help me figure out parenting. Help me figure out my finances. Help me figure out all these things. We're hungry for somebody to walk alongside of us and just help us to deal with all the situations that we bump into in the world around us. We're hungry for that. We're hungry for a sense of meaning and purpose. We're hungry to find something beyond ourselves, something that we can really invest our lives in, something that we feel like makes a difference. We're hungry. All of us are hungry for something. Jesus says to the disciples and to all of us who have claimed that profession that Jesus is Lord, you feed them. You feed them. You step into those places. Don't send them away. If they knew how to do this for themselves, they would do this for themselves. They need people who are willing to walk alongside of them. I love the way Frederick Buechner, a great theologian, says it. This is one of my favorite quotes. He says, "The place that God calls you to is the place where your deepest gladness, the thing that makes you happy, and the world's deep hunger meet. If you're ever wondering what you should do, if you're ever wondering how you should serve, figure out what really makes you happy, what do you enjoy doing, and find the place where people are hungry for that. Because we're all hungry for something. This is a deserted place. There's not enough. Jesus says, don't tell them to go away. You feed them. And they replied, we have nothing here but 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus, we don't have enough. We only have 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus, that's not enough. Look at all the people. That's not enough. That's not even enough for us. I'm still going to be hungry after I eat that. It's not enough. I got to go to Publix and pick up some more cheese. It's not enough. The disciples didn't think that they had enough. They didn't think that they were enough. They didn't think that they could do enough, which is the place that we find ourselves so often. We don't think we have enough. We don't think we are enough. We don't think we can do enough to really make a difference in the world. We think that the gift that we have to offer, what we have is not enough to really make a difference, so why offer it anyway? We think that the skills and the gifts and the graces that we have are not enough, so why invest them anyways? We think that, that thing that we were asked to do can't make a difference. It's not that big of a deal, so I'm just not going to worry about it. We think that all of those things are not enough. But Jesus has already told them what to do. You feed them. Amazingly enough, even when we think we're not enough, Jesus thinks there's more in us than we think there is. Jesus believes that you can do something that you don't necessarily believe you can do. He sees enough in you to know that with him, you have more than enough. So the disciples, they say, God, Jesus, all we got is this little bit of food. It's not enough. Now, if you read Matthew's gospel, Matthew is kind to the disciples. If you read John's gospel, John is less kind. All 4 gospels have this story, so it must be important. But in John's gospel, the disciples are like, oh, we don't have anything. Does anybody, who's got something? And they see a kid with like a Lunchable, right? And they go over, they take the Lunchable. They're like, Jesus, we got this. We got this little bit of food. Which, Lunchables are amazing, okay? A lot of you grew up on Lunchables. You love Lunchables so much that you buy expensive pieces of wood to put Lunchables on, and you call it charcuterie boards, right? You charge $17 for them at the restaurant. Guys, it's just a Lunchable. Just bring your own, all right? There's more than enough. Jesus says the most amazing thing to the disciples who say, we don't have enough. We don't have enough. There's not enough here, Jesus. There's not enough to go around. Jesus says this, after they say, we've only got 5 loaves and 2 fish. Bring them here to me. Bring them to me. Whatever you got, bring it to me. Whatever you have, bring what you have. Bring it to me. That's what Jesus' command is that to them. That's what Jesus' command is to us. Bring it to me. You don't think it's enough? Bring it to me and see what I can do with it. Just see what I can do with it. Just bring me what you got, whatever it is, whatever shape it is. I mean, if John's right, then this kid's been carrying this Lunchable around all day, trying to get to see Jesus, and I'm sure it's beat up and it's not in great shape. Who knows where the fishes and loaves came from, but somehow Jesus does something with what we've got. Just bring it to me. And Jesus doesn't ask any questions about it. Well, how big are the fish? What size are the loaves? He doesn't ask any questions about it. He just says, bring it to me. Jesus isn't worried about their onlys or their not enoughs. And so the question that we have to wrestle with is the question the disciples had to wrestle with. Will you bring what you think is not enough to Jesus? Will you bring what you think is not enough to Jesus? The disciples had a choice to make in this moment, and it's the same choice that we have to make. Do I close my hands around what little I think I've got because that scarcity mindset is running? Do I close my hands around it, or do I open my hands and offer it to God and see what God can do with it? Because Jesus says, bring it to me. And what they had to do is the same thing that we have to do. They had to trust that Jesus could do something with their sense of not enoughness. I love the way Greg McEwen talks about this in his book, Effortless. He says this, when you focus on what you lack, you tend to lose what you have. When you focus on what you have, you get what you lack. God often fills in those gaps of places that we think are not enough. And so the difference between eating a few fish and loaves and seeing a miracle happen in our midst is our willing to trust Jesus with what little we have. And most of us, especially when it comes to our money, we trust ourselves more than we trust God. We don't know if we can trust God with our money, which is really ironic because on the back of our money, it tells us that we should trust God with our money. So many of us think that what we have to bring won't be enough. We don't trust God to do something amazing with what we have to bring. We just can't see how God could use this little bit, or we can't see how God could use us, or we can't see how God could take something in our lives and make something more out of it. The difference between eating a little lunch and seeing a miracle happen is the difference between can't and won't. Jesus can do a lot of things with those can'ts in our lives. Oh, I don't think, he can't do anything with this. He can't do anything with this. But Jesus really struggles to do very much with our won'ts. I won't offer this. I won't give this. I won't step in. I won't do that. Jesus can do a whole lot with can'ts. Hey, here you go, Jesus. I mean, you can't make enough food out of this little bit to feed all these people. Even if you're on that Chopped show where they give you the basket, you can't do it. There's a big difference between can't and won't. And many of us live in a won't world where we won't give Jesus what we've got and see what he'll do with it. Bring it here, Jesus says. Then he ordered the crowds to sit down on the grass, and taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples. And the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all ate and were filled. And all ate and were filled. The disciples bring what little bit they have to Jesus. They trust him with it. They open their hands. They can't see how this is going to work, but Jesus blesses it and breaks it and gives it to the disciples. He gives it back to the disciples to give to the people so that they can be a part of the process of blessing the people. They can be a part of the process of meeting the hunger of all of these people. They can experience something more than what they had originally just by the act of giving this to the people. To the people who are hungry, the people who are searching, the people who aren't sure about God, who aren't sure about Jesus, who aren't sure about the church. To those people they give this food to, they meet their hunger in that moment. That's our call too. That's what we're invited into. Those same people that Jesus was talking about in Caesarea Philippi. The people who don't even know that they're looking for something yet. They can't even identify that hunger. They don't know that they're looking for something more than the next dollar, the next meal, the next encounter, the next drink, the next whatever. Those people. The disciples get to connect with them and share something amazing with them, and they are filled. Those same disciples who wanted to send all the people away get to be the very ones who God does a miracle through. Those same people who didn't think that they had enough, who didn't think that they were enough, those are the people that God gets to do a miracle through. Those same people who thought we only and we're not enough brought what they had to Jesus. Those same people are just like us. Just like us. And what they find is that there's always more than enough with Jesus. When we trust Jesus, there's always more than enough. In fact, all ate and were filled, and they took up what was left over of the broken pieces, 12 baskets full. Each of the 12 disciples gets to go home with a doggy bag. Right? Before, they only had a couple of loaves and a couple of fish. Now they got a whole doggy bag that they're going home with. They got more than they had before. So what we have to realize is that our not enough, when trusted to Jesus, is more than enough, is always more than enough. Because you're not only anything. You're the church. And Jesus is building the church. Jesus is doing the work. Jesus is blessing and breaking. And we get to be a part of sharing what Jesus is doing here and now. Invite others into it by putting Lawrenceville first. You only have to trust Jesus with you are not enough to see more than enough.